Welcome to the HindmanCast, a podcast of the Hindman Settlement School, where we explore the history, culture, and people that make the Hindman Settlement School what it is today, and how this historic institution will continue to serve its mission of celebrating heritage and changing lives in Central Appalachia. I'm Corey Terry.
And I'm Jordan Collins.
And welcome to episode number 24 of the HindmanCast, and it has been a while, Jordan.
Yeah, it's been, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm just sitting out of my...
It's been, I think our last episode was posted on December 6th.
I don't even know if we did any episodes in December. I think
we didn't, because the last one was with Carolyn Weiss, and that was when we was in California.
God.
So
we went to California in November.
We did, and, it's been a long break, but it was a much-needed break.
Yeah.
And
did not need that burnout.
Yeah, so to keep everyone safe from the burnouts, you just got to take breaks sometimes. And we probably would have an episode sooner had I not got the coronavirus like a couple weeks ago, and then had to quarantine for a week. But
I'm still going strong. I feel like that's surviving.
Here, knock on the wood.
Nah, I'll push my luck. I already have been, so might as well.
Yeah. So we're back at it here in 2022.
Yeah,
That's kind of hard to say. It's kind of a tongue twister. There's not too many twos. But we hope to get back on track and get episodes pumping out for you this year. And we got a good guest today. When we came back to work this year on January 3rd, I think it was, we had a new face in the office. And her name is Melissa Helton, and she is joining us today on the podcast. And welcome to the show, Melissa.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
It's good to have you. It's been a fun month, I would say. We've just kind of getting back into the flow of things and figuring things out again.
I'll give you getting back into the flow. But
I'm definitely still getting back in the flow of things. Yeah. It's going slow for me this year.
Same.
Readjusting. But Jordan, let's start where we always start with Melissa.
Well, you know where we're gonna start? The origin story.
Story.
Melissa, we want to know everything about you. We want to know what happened from day one to day now.
Well, I was born unto a Midwesterner and a foreigner in Toledo, Ohio. I grew up in Toledo with my family and went to college there. Got my bachelor's degree in environmental studies and got my master's degree in creative writing, because between the two, I had met a man from Kentucky, and you know how that goes. So he came up to Toledo with me. We got married. I was doing industrial wastewater treatment for a car factory in Detroit, and because I wanted to rehabilitate sea turtles, but there's no ocean in Ohio. I don't know if y'all know this. So
that's news to me.
Yeah. So
you could put them in the lake or something, couldn't you?
No, that's freshwater.
Oh, they could adjust.
Yeah, just those soft shell turtles. You can save those instead.
I don't think it works that way. But yeah, so I was working at a car factory in Detroit and was like, So I got my master's in creative writing, which put me into teaching. And then after we had our babies, we said, do we want them to grow up in the suburbs, or do we want them to grow up in my husband's mountains, because he's from here, anywhere between Leslie and Laurel County. He moved around a lot. And so we came down here in 2010. And I started working at the community college in Cumberland. And I was there about 10 years. And then I was doing adjunct for Hazard Community College and LMU. And I got my doctorate in education. I'm the first in my family to get a bachelor's degree, let alone a master's or a doctorate. So it was a big deal. I try to get my kids to call me Dr. Mom, but it's not working. So I think I give up on that. And then I am here. In the meantime, I've always been a writer and a poet, and we started kind of like a subsistence farm on my husband's great-grandfather's homestead, and that's about it.
You said you got a bachelor's in environmental science?
Yeah.
And then you end up in the how do you make that transition of that?
Writing poems was always something that I always did. And so I was actually, when I was an undergrad, I flipped a coin because I couldn't decide between going into art education, like being an art teacher, or doing environmental studies. And I flipped a coin. And I wanted to do wildlife rehab and conservation education. but there weren't any jobs available. So that's how I ended up using the environmental degree, doing the water treatment for the car factory. And then after 6 years of that, I said, let's go do something else. And luckily, I had applied for a MFA program and got in. So that kind of changed the trajectory. And everybody always told me, like, oh, you're going to be a teacher. You're going to be a teacher. And I was like, yeah. But they were right, because I did for 17 years, and now I'm here.
So you weren't a completely unfamiliar face whenever you came, because you've been coming to the Writers Workshop for several years, I remember. What got you started coming to that, and how did you learn about the Writers Workshop?
Like many things, it's Robert Gabe's fault. I worked with him at Southeast, and we were developing the honors program there. And I don't remember how the conversation came up, but he said, you need to go to Hindman. And so then I found out what was going on here. And the first year I applied, they rejected me. I don't know who was on that decision committee, but the second one I got in. So that was 2015, and I've been coming ever since. You know, some of it's been virtual because of COVID and all that. But and I got to come to some of the Troublesome Creek Writers Retreats and teach a Narrative 4 workshop with Silas House and Savannah Sipple, and it's just a place that always felt, as somebody from the Great Lakes region, this surprisingly feels a lot like home, like people that are my people, even though I'm an outsider, and always felt immediately accepted and comfortable. And I love the work that the settlement school does in the community, the multifaceted work. And so when I saw the position open up, I jumped at applying for it.
And kind of what you mentioned about Writers Workshop, I hear that all the time. And I also see that, you know, when they have the Writers Workshops here, I notice that everyone is invited to have a space, and they have their own space, and anyone can be what they want to be. It's just a really magical time for Writers Workshop. So I definitely see that.
So tell me a little bit more about your subsistence farming, and what do you guys grow? What do you raise animals or anything of that sort? What goes on there?
Right now, we've only got chicken and one lonely sheep. We need to get, she's a herd animal. She shouldn't be out there by herself. But at our peak, we had over 100 animals, hogs and chickens and turkeys and guineas, ducks and geese, rabbits. My husband, Keith, wanted to have, had a fantasy of having peacocks. So we had just 2 peacocks that just crapped on my car all the time. They just had the run of the property. And I think right now, the last year we're in the process of building a hoop house, so we didn't put in a big garden last year. But yeah, we do a lot of the processing. We can the food and make, jams and dehydrate things. And the biggest change, because my dad had an organic garden in our backyard when I was growing up. He had about a 3-year attention span, so there was 3 years that we had a big garden. But raising animals is a lot different than zucchini.
Yeah.
So God bless my students that helped me through my first hog slaughter, because that was intense. But I think it's really important to have some awareness of where your food comes from, and because I've seen people who they can't eat chicken on a bone because they're so upset about the reality of their choices, and you either need to come to peace with your food choices or change them. And there's a lot of empowerment growing and controlling some of your food. So, we're excited about the new garden coming in with our hoop house. It'll be our first year using it.
I got 2 things to say. And also, just that raising the garden makes you feel good. Even if you don't raise enough to eat. I raised that little tomato plant on my porch this year. Got 10 tomatoes off of it. I felt like the biggest man on this mountain. But also, you said you had a lot of animals on your farm, right? Which one was your favorite, and which one was one that you absolutely hate?
Oh, well, we had a duck. He was awful. Like the girl, because we're right there on the Middle Fork of the Kentucky River, and the girls would be out there swimming, and he would be pestering them, like they're basically dying, like drowning as he's. And I told Keith one day, I said, you got to kill that duck. And he was delicious. We ended up, but I don't know as if I had a favorite, but Keith certainly did. He bonded with this one hog, and he kept putting off, slaughtering her and processing her, because as somebody who has had pets and food animals, I mean, my pigs have had just as much personality and intelligence as my stupid little dog,
Right.
maybe more. And that was one that was the last one we did, because it was just, you know, you get to know them and you see them differently than just products in a supermarket.
I had a pet pig when I was a little kid. So, like, he followed me around the house. We watched cartoons together. He'd, like, kiss me on the side of the cheek or whatever.
Was his name Waddles?
His name was Petey.
Oh.
Petey the pig.
I always tell. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I went down to my story, Corey.
Sorry, I thought you were done.
But then my great-grandfather, he was like, it's time. And then I never seen Petey
It's
again.
time to eat him.
And didn't eat bacon for like 10 years. So it was a traumatizing moment.
I always tell people that want to get into raising like meat chickens, like they think they can't kill it, like do that sort of thing. I'm like, by the time you get done, when it gets to that point, you want to kill them because they're so aggravating and just difficult.
I feel nothing for a chicken.
No, I really don't care. They make your life miserable.
That just made us look real cruel, but that's okay.
I mean,
you raise chickens.
They're
I grew up on,
delicious.
they're delicious, but they're also super annoying most of the time. So
and I was thinking whenever you was talking about how like people can't like eat meat off the bone or something like that, it's like there's a person in our office, I'm not going to name any names,
I know
who will not eat the chicken that we raised because she said it tastes.
it don't got its shots.
It doesn't have its shots and antibiotics and all that stuff. I'm just like,
I mean, whatever floats your boat.
it's good.
But where are we, Corey? I got lost on this list.
We haven't even got started on the list besides the origin story.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're about a month in now, and how are you enjoying your time in Hyndman so far?
Well, so far there hasn't been any drama or fist fights, so I think that's good. We're off to a good start.
Give it time.
Give it time.
Me and Jordan will fight at some point.
Yeah. It will not bode well for Corey.
Oh, I'll think of who I want to place my money on.
I'll tell you what the sure thing is. No, we're done. We're done with this.
But yeah, I'm getting to know how the processes work and getting our programs up to date and learning up and running rather, and learning who everybody is and who's chair not to take during lunchtime. Learning important stuff.
That is important.
Will you please just tomorrow park and read a spot just for the fun of it?
Oh,
No,
God.
sir.
We should all just park in that line. Her head would explode.
Would.
Just right there.
Yeah, you should do that sometime. Just mess with her. It's fun.
Nope.
Yeah, she deserves it sometimes, for what it's worth. So, what kind of drew you to seek the position as community programs manager here at the settlement school?
Well, you know, for 17 years I was teaching composition and writing classes at the schools, and also humanities classes like Intro to Philosophy and Appalachian Studies. And my favorite things about education are things that I can do here. So like through the honors program, my favorite thing was just creating opportunities for people to take students who had never been to an art museum, or take them to see the ocean for the first time. And it was like, I will drive until 2 a.m. so that we can get you here. And I had amazing colleagues that I worked with and helped create these opportunities. And that was the thing that I loved about education. But like grading essays and being overworked and underpaid and underappreciated and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of essays, it kind of wore me down. And so I was thinking, like, where can I do my favorite things about my teaching career and get rid of the things that make me have a breakdown in the parking lot? And, you know, so for a while I'd been looking around for different jobs. And when I saw that one here, it was perfect, because as community programs manager, I get to put a foot in each of my favorite things, in creative writing and literature, and in food production and agriculture education. And so I get to create the opportunities for high school students to come to Hyndman and have a Hyndman writing experience. I get to create the opportunity for young people to learn the power and beauty of growing one tomato plant and getting 10 tomatoes off of it, right? So it preserves the things I love best, and it discards the things that were kind of crippling up my soul.
feel that. And that is a wonderful thing that we do here. I noticed that, just bringing any children, even if it's in the dyslexia program, because we haven't had the foodways program in this capacity. But just seeing like the dyslexia children come in and pick tomatoes and really like enjoy the entire process and be proud of what they've picked off the vine, and then just to see that as not something someone else has grown that they're picking, but something they're growing and picking, I think that's super special.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I remember my older daughter, when she was in first grade, as part of a project in her school, they started a little pole bean plant. And the day she brought it home and we planted it, and we had a bamboo that she wrapped it up. And the day that we harvested her pole beans, it was like half a mess. Like, it was barely enough for everybody to eat 2 or 3 bites. But she didn't eat green beans really before that. And even to this day, I kind of fight to get her to eat vegetables. But she ate those, and she was so proud that we were eating her beans. And so those things are transformative for kids.
My oldest kid pretty much eats nothing but vegetables, and it's kind of shocking to me. But like, she likes to go out to the greenhouse with me and just pick the cherry tomatoes off the vine and just eat them. Yeah. I'm like, that's disgusting because I hate tomatoes.
It's crazy to me that you grow all of the tomatoes and you're like, I hate all of these. Every single one of them.
Yeah, I did grow a variety called Atomic Grape one time, and I could handle those. Those were decent. They weren't so.
What's the difference?
They just didn't have a very strong flavor, and wasn't.
So you really just want something that doesn't taste like a tomato?
Yeah, pretty much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Just making sure.
Not my favorite thing on the earth. So, as the community programs manager, what are some of the projects that you're working on, and kind of what is your vision and hope for those going forward?
So on the creative writing track, we're arranging for local published writers to go into the high schools and do creative writing workshops with the high school students, especially as a region whose story has been told by outsiders throughout history. Amplifying these our native voices here is really important, and especially when looking at issues of place, issues of dialect, issues of culture, having students understand that what they have to say, how they view the world, is important not only to them to be able to stand up and say what they think, but it's important to our whole region to get all their voices, and that's important to the whole nation. So that's one aspect of it, and we really want local writers in the classrooms because it shows students like people here can do it and people here should do it. And so that's one. And the other thing that we're doing is setting up a youth version of the Appalachian Writers Workshop. So for 5 days, the students would come and stay on campus. They'd take classes with like a poetry teacher, a fiction teacher, nonfiction, and try out the different genres, see which ones they like, and build that youth writing community of their peers. So hopefully we can transcribe the things that we love best about the adult workshop that I've been to in a way that can help these students realize that they are writers, that what they have to say is important, and that they're not alone. Because like my 15-year-old, she loves to write, but she doesn't have any writer friends. So I would, for students like her to be able to be around other writers, I know it's been transformative for me. And even something as simple, Darnell Arnault at the Lincoln Memorial University Mountain Heritage Literary Festival, every time we sat down, she would have us, the first session, she would have everybody say, I am a writer. Now that seems ridiculous. It seems trivial, it seems unimportant, but to claim that identity, not only is this something I love, but it's something that's worthwhile and important. So we hope we're working on developing both of those. And in the foodways, it's twofold. We're looking to get more agricultural programming in the high schools as well, and the elementary schools, getting kids learning what it's like to grow pole beans or tomatoes, and taking that ownership and learning about our food, because a lot of times, I've known adult people who don't know that peanuts grow underground. Did you all know that? Like, I'm sure you did, but a lot of people don't know that. Knowing these things and doing programming in the schools. And the other part is that we want to do an internship in the summer for late high school or people just out of high school to learn about the option of agriculture and food production as a potential career. So what is it like to, do a business plan if this is something I'm interested in, and packaging and processing and taking these things to market? Because as we are building an economy that's diversified and isn't just dependent on coal, healthcare, and education, we want kids to see, if I want to stay, agriculture and food production is an option. And both of these programs, we hope, not only increases food diversity and food availability, but also would improve the health of the students, their families, and their communities by having the availability of these foods and having them local and keeping that money in the community instead of just buying produce from Guatemala.
Indeed.
It seems you got it very well under control. I don't even have anything to
I've worked here for 7 years, and I couldn't explain my job like that.
That's probably something you shouldn't broadcast, Corey, but okay.
I will.
Regardless, here comes a hard transition. Everybody ready? Here we go. Okay, so tell us about your writing and your process, and if you have any books that you're working on publishing or published.
Yeah, so I just had my second chapbook out. For those not in the poetry world, a chapbook is like a small book of poetry. It's not a full length. It's about half, kind of like a novella to a novel. Done through Workhorse Press. It's called Hewn, Hewn. And the one in 2016 was called Inertia, a Study, and that was through Finishing Line Press. I've always written, publishing things is different because you're taking these thoughts or inventions or memories or whatever they are, and you're making them public. Like, I was so scared for my first one because it dealt with my father's death and some things out of childhood, and you're making these things public, and they have a life of their own. Like, the only fan letter that I got, this guy wrote me from Cincinnati, and I have no idea how he even saw this poem, and he wrote me all about, in response to this poem, and it was so bizarre because this poem had lived in my head and my notebook for so long, and now some just random person's reading it and having thoughts about it. It's trippy, but that's the magic of the written word, right? We can project ideas and information across time and space. It's magic. I've gotten poems published in print journals and online journals, and I want to give a shout out to Still, the journal, which does an amazing job for Appalachian writing, and they've been kind enough to publish some of my stuff. Right now, I've got a couple full-length collections that are I'm shopping around trying to get published, and it's a slow process, though. So, like the one, Out and Out Again, and it's about my process of coming to realization of my orientation in my 30s, and that process of how we present ourselves to the world, and how, it's not just about gender identity and orientation, but how we come out about our political beliefs, how we come out about who we love, regardless it is, how we come out and tell the world who we are. I had sent that to a publisher last January, and she said, well, I sent her the query, and she was like, well, send me the full manuscript in October. 10 months later, she answered my email. I'd forgotten I'd sent it. And then I sent her the full length in October, and she's like, well, yeah, okay, well, send me the whole thing. And it's been 3 months. So, it's a ridiculously slow process. But just this December, I finished the first draft of a book about my family's history with immigration. So my father wasn't a citizen. He was from Nottingham. And looking at, my mother's father was the first born here from the Norwegian ancestors, and we've been doing this genealogy in our family going all the way back to 1635 when they came over to the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And I think of just the absolute privilege that I have to even have those records, because so many communities and families, they weren't deemed important enough to write down a passenger list. They were just a count of a person, or not even a count. So I recognize my tremendous privilege to be able to even research this stuff. But it was a series of poems exploring what does it mean to be American, because like my father never naturalized. He was a resident alien, which I remember being very confused about, because an alien to a child means outer space, you know, and you see this green card that says resident alien, and you're like, Dad's from outer space. But, you know, but he knew where home was, and it was here, and he was more American than British. And my Norwegian ancestors, when they came over in 1904, it was, you are American. And so, like, they wouldn't even teach the children Norwegian. So I couldn't imagine being a parent and raising children who couldn't speak my language, you know, because it was that force and that push of assimilation to lose all your cultural traditions for the sake of Americanness, which I think is, I mean, I can't judge any of them for those decisions because I don't know what it's like, but it's tragic and it's a loss in some way to me as a descendant. I would love to have those things. So that was a big push in December, was writing that collection and doing that research, and to write those poems in a way that would not only be a memoir for my family's history and immigration, but also like work well on the page as poems. So that's where I'm at with those.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of echo what you said about the whole immigration and assimilation thing, I mean, that has just ruined entire families, and Polish people can't speak Polish, and Irish people don't know their it's Gaelic, right? Like any of those cultural things.
Yeah, I'm sad that I lost that.
I think
I would love to be able to talk like that.
I think you and me lost that a long time ago, Corey. That's been killed over years. But
I'm curious how you manage to work full-time jobs, raise kids, have a subsistence farm, and still find time to write. How do you carve out time for that?
I don't know. Good question. I guess you just think about what fire needs put out first. Like, what do I need to do today? And a lot of times your beloved things like poetry goes to the back burner. And that's why it was like once all my essay grading was done in December, then I had 2 weeks to fall down that rabbit hole and just sit at my computer and do those things. But it's always been something, it's hard for me to turn down an opportunity. Like when I was in graduate school, I was working at the car factory, which was 72 hours a week. God. They were 12-hour shifts, like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then I'd work all night, and then I'd go home and I'd nap for an hour or two, and then I'd go teach my classes at the university, and then I'd take my writing classes until like 10 o'clock. There were 2 days a week that I had to stay up for over 24 hours. It was terrible. And then I was also in my first trimester of our first pregnancy, so you got unbelievable fatigue. And so you nap in the Food City parking lot. I'm not saying it's healthy. I don't advocate for that kind of thing, but I knew it was a temporary condition. And luckily, things have simplified over the years, and I have more free time. But yeah, it's hard when we've got so many obligations and pressures to do the things that we want to do. I think we can all understand and been in positions like that.
I don't think I've ever been pregnant and had to work on a dog. Well, yeah, that's.
I've been through pregnancies with a wife who was very sick the whole time. That was a struggle. Yeah, but I've always been very proud of the time of my life when I worked like 60 hours a week, went to school full time, and had a pregnant wife and kid at some point. And I think you just upped me, so 72 hours a week and I'm not teaching and going to school.
It's not a competition.
I'm not even going to talk about college, so we're just gonna. I think I slacked off a little bit too much.
Jordan, he gets a lot of rest from his resting.
I need the rest from the rest because it's exhausting.
Gosh.
But anyway, this is one that Corey added, and he's gonna shoot himself in the foot with it. But who is the coolest coworker that you have?
Barrow.
Barrow.
For those of you who don't know, our director, Will Anderson, that's one of his dogs that comes into the office. Totally charming, very polite, lovely.
Yeah, I do
I do like Barrow. He's very sweet.
Yeah, except when he gets in my shoes. I could do without that. But any other time, love Barrow.
Yeah. He's a nice dog.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Here comes the sound.
Wait, I don't know which one it is. I'm scared to press
It's
one.
been too long.
Did I not name it?
That's good.
Okay, here it is.
Yeah.
Wait.
Lightning round.
Lightning round.
So you're first.
Okay. What is the most amazing fact that you know? These are Jordan's questions, so.
Can it be a connected series of facts?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. I learned this from a TikTok and then also read it in a...
Shout out TikTok. We're on TikTok now.
So in the 1800s, this unidentified woman's body kind of washed up in the river in France. And the undertaker was so fascinated by her beauty that they made like a death mask of her, which morbidly became like decoration in people's homes. So like people would have her death mask like hanging there. It was kind of trippy. But anyway, this Norwegian toy maker in the 1950s saw her face and became fascinated by her, and she became the face. He invented the CPR dummy that you practice on during your training, and he put her face on the dummy.
That's creepy.
And then one step further than that, they named her Annie. And so when you're doing your CPR training and you're supposed to ask the victim, "Are you okay?" they would say, "Annie, are you okay?" Which
Annie,
legend
okay?
has Michael Jackson's song.
What was it?
Annie, are you okay?
Oh.
I know it.
Wow.
That's wild.
That is wild.
Because I just finished the CPR training not too long ago, and now I know it was "Are you okay, Annie?"
Yeah. I just have scenes from The Office going through my head now. So
That's good. You got any facts, Corey?
also traumatizing. No.
Okay.
I know you got some facts though.
I
What's your
have-
fact?
I have one.
You're full of facts.
I am.
Jordan can
full of
remember
a lot of-
everything from like 7th grade
That's-
history class
I
or
don't
science
know- I don't
class,
know about that,
but I can't remember anything from yesterday. So
but let's see here. The sloth. It
I love
grows.
sloths.
It grows algae under its fur, and it camouflages it unintentionally just because it's so slow. The reason the sloth is able to survive is because it's so bad at surviving. It's so lazy that it survives.
I can relate.
It just moves so slow and is camouflaged. So that's it.
It grows algae. Is that what
It
you
grows
said?
algae underneath its fur, and it camouflages it in the canopy.
Huh.
Yeah, right.
Seems like a lot of moisture.
It's a rainforest. It's pretty typical.
Sounds cold.
All right, this is what I found earlier today. So what song do you think is played on loop in hell?
I hope this doesn't unfriend me with anybody, but it's 100% without a doubt that Shania Twain song, "Let's Go Girls," that Shania Twain song, "Let's Go Girls."
Is that country?
Yeah.
I'm sure there's just country music playing anyway.
It's horrible.
But
And it's been in like commercials and all that kind of stuff, and no, it's horrible. That's my nightmare.
I mean, my mind just went to Iron Maiden, "The Number of the Beast," because obviously, not that it's a bad song, it's just it makes sense.
Mine was "Call Me Maybe" by Carly Rae Jepsen, right?
Yeah.
God, that ruined my life for like a year, and I just can't go back to
I think
that.
it's catchy. I think it's good.
No, Shania's that song's playing in hell because it's a bad song.
There's lots of country songs. If you ever go to the IGA up here in Hyman, they're always playing like these worst songs, and it's really loud.
New country usually.
And it just
Get up
really
on-
ruins the shopping experience for me.
Get up on up in my truck and have a beer and with my big
Yeah.
old dog.
That's pretty much it.
Hate it. In case you haven't noticed, me and Corey both hate country music, so that was the thing.
Yeah.
All right. Breakfast, lunch, brunch, or dinner? Which is your favorite?
Oh. I think I've only technically had brunch once. I'm not that fancy. If I had to skip one, I'd skip breakfast. And then by the time lunch comes around, I'm hangry. So if I had to pick just one, it would be eaten in the middle of the day for lunch.
Fair. I like brunch because I am fancy.
What is brunch? I didn't know that was fancy. I thought it was just having breakfast at lunchtime.
You have much to learn, Corey. Brunch is a time period in between breakfast and lunch where you can have lunch-ish
So, like,
while having breakfast.
10:30.
You can have a mimosa at brunch.
So basically, I have brunch often because I'm so hungry because I don't eat breakfast.
That's true.
That I'm like, I'm going to go make my turkey sandwich right now.
Well, maybe that's more early lunch, but you can call it brunch. All right. Hit us on this next one, Corey.
What is a weird thing that you are nostalgic for?
Oh. Well, this is at the top of my head because I was listening to music on shuffle. And Muddy Waters, the singer and musician, my dad enjoyed his music. And growing up, my dad was a glass blower, and he was a carpenter for Renaissance festivals. And so I spent my summers in the pretend 16th century, which was ironic, him being English, the day that an Ohioan, like we'd call her Karen these days, told my dad, out of all the fake English accents in this place, yours is by far the worst. And his was the only genuine one. But before the gates opened and he would do glass balloon demonstrations all day, we'd play Muddy Waters in the morning. And that came across my shuffle the other day, and it's got me nostalgic and sad. My father passed away from cancer in 2007, sorry. And so I'd like to go and have one of those breakfasts again with him.
So I was always told when I was in the way of something, your daddy ain't a glass maker, but your dad was literally a glass maker, right? So I just want to put that little pin in that way for people who are listening.
Somebody should say that to her. And then she just
your daddy ain't
snapped back. Actually, he was.
Yeah, he was. So you should be able to see through me.
Yeah. I've never heard that one.
Yeah, I heard that all the time.
I just hear you're not a window or something like that.
I always had this thing where I'd stand up and watch TV. It was really weird. I'd always be in the way. It's just because it'd catch my attention on the way through. But all right, favorite color, most despised color.
Most despised is that salmon, that like pinky orangey color. That's easier. Favorite, I don't know. Probably like a deep purple, maybe. Yeah, like a deep. Well, I'd have to. I'm gonna just cheat. I'm gonna say like a deep purple and an emerald green because I can't choose. But salmon's definitely the Shania Twain of colors.
I like that. Salmon. Put that in the tagline, Corey. Salmon is the Shania Twain of colors.
That is nice.
That's memeable.
That would spark some controversy. That's like a what's it called? Like clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait. You'll never believe what Melissa said on HindmanCast.
Some Shania Twain fans would be really offended.
Whatever. Bring it on.
All right, Melissa, we thank you so much for joining us and looking forward to working with you over the next however long we work together. And we thank you so much for coming on today.
Well, thank you for having me.
And with that, Melissa has left the building and gone back down to her office, where we will see her again here soon. So we want to get to our announcements and donor recognition as we like to do. So first up, we have a new program here called Roots and Rows, and this is our new community garden project, and it will start up here in February with a seed swap on February 15th from 5:30 to 7:30 in the Great Hall here at the Settlement School. So if you have any heirloom seeds to swap, please bring those, and we also have plenty of seeds here to give away from our seed shower that has been taking place over the past month or so, thanks to the generous gifts of our DAR friends around the world, around the country. I guess they're not really around the world because it's kind of an American thing,
No,
isn't
what?
it?
No, there are some in Europe.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's cool.
See, that's another fact we learned today.
Nice.
And then also preparations are underway for this year's Knott County Farmers Market. So if you've ever thought about selling your own produce, cake, canned, or baked goods at your local farmers market, you can join us here at the Settlement School for Farmers Market 101 on Tuesday, March 1st from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. in the Great Hall. That's March 1st, 5:30 to 6:30 in the Great Hall.
And we also have What's Cooking Now coming up again here in February on February 3rd at 7 p.m. We didn't have one in January, if you happen to have noticed, because I got coronavirus that week and we had to cancel. So, Whoopsies. So we'll pick back up here in February. And those are always live streamed on Facebook and our YouTube channel, so you can watch it there. And the theme this month is carbs to beat the cold.
What's cooking now? Go brrr. People will get that.
It is very cold So we need carbs to warm us up. Time to carbo load.
I don't know if
the
it's
body.
time. I don't know if it's time for me, but
I need carbs.
I'm good.
I love carbs.
I'll pass. And then we always have to recognize our donors.
Yeah. So first off, we got to recognize Becky Elam. This kind of happened a while back, but we just haven't had a podcast since it happened. So Becky donated money for us to get another camera
Give us that angle, Corey.
because she saw that on our last episode of What's Cooking Now that Jordan, who is our cameraman that moves around with the thing, was hustling and was very tired.
I'm always hustling for what it's worth.
And I was like, this is happening because I only have 2 cameras and he has a lot to cover. So Becky heard that and came through with a camera. So I'm using one right now. We got 3 angles here on this podcast now, thanks to Becky.
Is it this one?
Yeah, that's the one that we're on right now. Yeah. So now we got the view of us, we got our guest, and we also have a wide angle for everybody just to get a whole glimpse of the atmosphere here. So thank you so much for that, Becky. You are a gem, and I don't know what we'd do without you.
That's true. Still using that mug and still eating that candy, by the way. So it's held me off for a while. We'd also like to thank the Martha Stewart Bulloch chapter.
And also the Hollywood chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, came through with a donation as well.
And we'd also like to thank Mr. Harold Bond as well.
Harold Bond.
You know, we said we weren't going to do it, and you did it anyway, but that's okay.
I think Harold Bond would appreciate it.
All
right. Thank you all so much for what?
I'm Corey Terry.
I'm going to.
Oh.
I got to get to that first.
Okay.
I got to say thank you.
I thought you'd forgotten.
No.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for listening today and joining in on the HindmanCast. And as always, I'm Corey Terry.
And I'm Jordan Collins.
And we'll see you next time.
The HindmanCast is brought to you by the faithful and generous supporters of the Hindman Settlement School. For over 100 years, we've been celebrating heritage and changing lives in Central Appalachia. If you're interested in supporting the work of Hindman Settlement School, you can go to our website at www.hindman.org, or you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the handle @HindmanSchool.